Weekly Volunteer Opportunities and Updates meeting. My name is Bear Lewis, Disaster Program Manager here in Northern Nevada. We have a lot of new volunteers on today, so I'm very excited and I want to welcome you all. I also want to ask anyone who talks about anything or shares, try not to use acronyms today since we have so many new folks on the line and we have so many acronyms here in Red Cross, it can be really confusing. So I know it's really tricky if you've been in the organization a while, but please do your best to use as few acronyms as possible so that our new team members understand what we're talking about. And I apologize for moving around the room, you guys. I will stop doing that because I know it creates vertigo for some folks. I just wanted to check back on the computer and I'm having challenges. So you guys, I'm going to briefly turn my camera off while I walk to the other technology room. But while I'm doing that, I want to hear from everyone on the line if they have any questions from the previous meeting we had or anything that's come up this week. Okay, well, hearing none, we're actually moving back to the technology room because I can't get our computer to work in here. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Leslie. You guys, I'm sorry, we're actually going back to the technology room because I couldn't get the computer to work in there. Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you guys online for sticking with us while we move around a little bit. The other thing,
You can't get in there?
it won't turn on in the training room.
Did you hit the TV button itself?
The TV comes on, the computer won't bring up Teams, even when I'm logged in. It just keeps working on it. So bear with me, you guys. We're starting over, turning the computer on, and I will get to my agenda. I feel a little bit like I'm flying blind. But the one thing I want to say is we did a lot of things this past week. One of the things we did, I have a huge shout out to give to Mike Algier, Dave Kidwell, and Paul Steer, because we had about a 16-hour day driving to Elko, emptying out the storage unit there so we could save some donor dollar because we just had stuff sitting out there in storage for a while. And we got it done. We had to break in and do a couple of different things that were non-traditional. But we got it all done and taken care of. Huge shout out to them. Also, huge shout out to Leslie Hall, because you've been gone, but even with you being gone, the youth preparedness program has continued. We've all known what to do, what presenters we needed to arrange. And that is a segue to a shout out to Betsy Morse, who is always there and carries does so many presentations and educates so many kids so that they can go home and educate their families, which is super important. And now I'm going to break for a minute and I'm going to let Betsy, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, and just talking about the difference Prepare with Pedro makes and how our presentations go. And another gigantic shout out, you guys can't see me, to Al, who dresses up as Pedro the Penguin and just brings so much joy to kids' lives. So Betsy, over to you while I'm getting logged in.
Okay, so Prepare with Pedro is our preparedness curriculum for kindergarten through second graders. And as Sherry mentioned, we are very lucky that we have someone who is willing to dress up in a penguin suit because Pedro is a penguin and go with us. He is beloved by the children. In fact, when we gave a presentation yesterday, as Pedro, aka Al, walked in, all of the kids ran to get around him. Every one of them wanted to hug him. And it was just a wonderful way to start to gather their attention and to start this program. Pedro is very simple, pillowcase for older children. actually has a lot more information, but Pedro is just very simple. What young children can do to stay safe if there's a home fire. And so we practice a fire drill and we try to emphasize how quickly they need to get out of the house, what they should do if there's smoke, and the importance of having working smoke detectors. All things that we hope they will take home to their parents. And the research all shows that if you teach the children, many of them will go home and they'll talk about what they learned in school. And then we will get a call from a parent because no, they don't have working smoke detectors. And their child learned in school that the Red Cross will install free smoke detectors. So it's just a wonderful way to introduce children to preparedness. At the school we were in yesterday, one of the things that we had to correct is the children were getting confused between earthquake preparedness and fire preparedness. And, you know, they're in kindergarten and first grade, so it's very easy to see why they might get confused, but they wanted to go under their desks when the smoke alarm, when the fire alarm went off. So it is very important that they not just hear this at school, but they hear it from us as well to make sure they really do understand why they do certain things.
Thank you, Betsy. Does anyone have any questions about Prepare with Pedro or the opportunities we try and share with our youth, and why? And can you see us all? Can anyone online hear us? Okay.
Yes, yes, we
Good,
can.
we got a thumbs up. Okay, excellent.
Yes, you're there.
Okay, good. And is the volume okay?
Yes, it's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Betsy. And speak up if you guys have any questions or if they come to mind. I just have to tell you that I've seen Betsy and others deliver Prepare with Pedro. I don't even know how many times, countless times. And it brings so much joy to just watch the kids and how much they are so responsive to the important information that they're getting. Yeah, and I can't talk enough about it, and I get smiles, and I can't go to enough presentations to observe. So if you guys ever just want to check it out and support Betsy or Gail or any of the other presenters, it's really fun. It's a really cool opportunity to see the kids, especially when Al is able to join us. And yeah, it's pretty amazing seeing them light up to him. So thank you guys. Huge shout out to all of you. And another new person that we had support this week is Sylvia. And I don't know how to say her last name properly, so I'm not going to say it. But she was taking photos there. So she's technically not part of our disaster cycle services team, but she's part of our chapter volunteer team who's going to be out taking photographs of all the different ways that our chapter engages in the community and all the different lines of service. So that was super exciting to have her with us. And Sylvia, if you're on the line, I hope you come to many, many more events. It was great to have you there. And now we'll get back to the agenda now that I'm back on schedule and course and everyone can see what we're talking about. I introduced myself. I also included my phone number and email so you all know that you're always welcome to reach out to me by phone, text, email, anytime you have questions about what's happening in the Red Cross, different volunteer opportunities, things that are coming up, or really anything at all. So with that, does anyone have any questions right now that they want to ask in front of the group? Because you're probably not the only one that has the question if you have one or two. Okay, hearing none, we're going to move right on to welcoming new team members. Since the terrible catastrophic fire happened in Hawaii, it's brought Red Cross to the minds of many folks. Some of you are here today, right? Thank you. Thank you for being here and on the call. Thank you for responding to the need that's out there for disaster response, not just in Hawaii, but hopefully after our conversations, you guys understand there's really need everywhere all the time, even if it's a single family house fire up to a catastrophic event like that occurred in Hawaii. So thank you all for joining our team, digging right into that stimulating training that Mark loves so much. Mark Birch on the line. Thank you guys. Just this month already, since September 1st, we've had Francis Brown, Mark Birch, and Lisa Stovall join our team. We had over 20 others join our team last month. That includes you both. So thank you all for joining our team and being here and digging right in. Really appreciate it. Know that a lot of the volunteers you've heard from today have been in the Red Cross a long time, and I consider them mentors, and I hope that you feel comfortable reaching out to them. Betsy, Barb are perfect examples of volunteers who've supported the Northern Nevada chapter of the Red Cross for a long time. And without them, we wouldn't be the chapter that we are. So thank you so much. And thank you guys always for making yourselves available to new volunteers. I already asked you guys if you had questions since the last meeting. I still have a little bit of follow-up to do from a meeting that occurred a couple meetings ago about some travel assistance that's being offered to individuals who have family members who have passed away. Red Cross is offering some assistance, getting family members, I believe, to and from the island of Hawaii for different services, up to 2 people. So there's more follow-up I need to learn and give to you guys on that, but I wanted to just let you know it's still something I'm working on. I just haven't had the time to dig into it as much as I wanted to. I'm going to include a link to the video of our last meeting on each of these agendas, just in case we start talking about things from our previous meeting you weren't able to attend. You can go back and really easily get to it. Some important information. I've talked about OneSource the last 3 meetings. I'm hoping this is not the last meeting I talk about it, but the last meeting that I kind of introduce it to you. OneSource replaced the Exchange. To a lot of you new folks, that's not going to mean much, but the Exchange used to be a rabbit hole, is the best way to describe it, of where all of Red Cross information, guidance, and stuff lived. And they've since developed a new tool called OneSource to make it a lot simpler for us. So far, I agree. I've had no problems finding anything that I've tried to locate. The one thing I did notice is that when I go to my volunteer connection profile now, I used to be able to get to Edge right from volunteer connection. And for you guys, Edge is our Red Cross learning portal where we get to all the training. And what disappeared for me is that link. And now I have to go into OneSource to get to Edge. And I wanted to point that out just in case that's the same for you guys. I didn't know if it was maybe something that just impacted staff or if it impacted everyone.
I still have the link.
You still have right here under your photo? Okay, good deal. So ignore all of this. I don't have it anymore. I have to actually go into OneSource. And as an employee, now this is where I get access to Edge. So I guess the lesson with that is if you ever have something disappear from your profile and volunteer connection, go look for it in OneSource because it might be there. And I just, one day it just disappeared. So I didn't know that was going to happen. Anybody else have any challenges or new things that they want to share about OneSource? Okay. Moving on to authorized drivers. So we have chapter vehicles. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them are here at the Reno chapter office. We also have a truck out in Winnemucca and a truck out in Elko. The reason why I bring this up is because many new volunteers, especially those who join our disaster action team, I encourage to become authorized drivers. And there's a couple reasons for that. When we go out and we respond to disasters, our branded vehicles let people know right away who we are. And that is just a nice safety feature for us. Because some people, especially out in rural areas where they might have a bigger property, are pretty cautious about people just coming onto their land. So when we respond in private vehicles, we just have to be a little bit more cautious that, hey, they don't know who we are when we're approaching. If we have an opportunity to pick up one of our fleet vehicles, even our ERV, that's better. Just for that reason alone, they can see we're in a branded vehicle and who we are. The other benefit is that you can drive the vehicles for any other things that we might be going to or participating in, like preparedness events. So yesterday I drove a chat, or I didn't actually yesterday, it was a kind of an anomaly, but most of the time when I'm going to preparedness presentations or meetings or anything out in the community, I drive a chapter vehicle just because it's kind of letting everybody know, hey, Red Cross is out here. We're doing it in the community, even when there's not a flood or major disaster happening. So anybody on the line, if you guys want to become authorized drivers, please let me know and I'll walk you through the process. It's really easy. Once you take a short defensive driving course online through Edge, we fill out a request form on Volunteer Connection. They do a little bit of a background check just to make sure there's not any major driving violations on your record in the past couple of years. And they issue what's called a key pin. And I should have brought my keys in with me. Oh, Leslie Hall, thank you. It's basically a little peg that we put into a board. And when we put it into the board, it allows us to release a key for one of the vehicles. Perfect. Thank you, Leslie. So it looks like this. It's just a little peg and there's holes that this fits into next to each set of the keys for our chapter vehicles. When we put this in, it releases our keys and we have keys to the chapter vehicles that are all here. So if you are an authorized driver, please make sure you reach out to me and so I can request a door entry badge for you, because this key peg doesn't do you any good if you can't get in the front door. So it's kind of a two-step process. First, you become an authorized driver, get your key peg and all that stuff. And then I get you an entry badge to get into the building so you can get all the keys. So anyone interested in doing that, wants to do that, please let me know and we'll get you through the process. I'll also show you where the keys are at and the form. We fill out a form each time we take a vehicle. We include the starting mileage and the ending mileage and anything that we notice about the vehicle that might need repair or might need looked into by our fleet team. Does anyone have any questions about becoming an authorized driver or that process?
Sherry, this is Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hi. I just finished that as part of the ongoing stuff. It's very painless. There's probably 10 or 15 minutes worth of question and answer forms excluding the video itself, the driver's training. So it's very simple forms and stuff. So it's already done. I've got my pin already, and so it went through pretty quick. So it's not much of a heavy lift.
Awesome. Thank you for that feedback. Yeah, you and Adam have both already done it. And door badges are on the way. So thank you. Any other questions, or does anyone have any interest in becoming an authorized driver that's not already?
Driving tomorrow. You're welcome to.
All right, Leslie's driving tomorrow. So if you guys want to ride with her, see how the process works, show up early and show you. Hi,
Sherry,
Kara.
yeah, so if you're deployed, does your status follow you then? Or being an officer?
Excellent question. You actually, as a Red Cross responder, if you have a driver's license and are assigned to a disaster relief operation like in Hawaii or anywhere else, you're automatically an authorized driver for that disaster relief operation. You just have to have a valid driver's license. So this process is only necessary for our local fleet vehicles.
Okay.
Excellent question, Carol. Any other questions on the line? Okay. So each week I'm going to talk about the DAT responses we've been on and the awesome responders who've been on them. I am so happy to report, and I can actually change this to 912 because I looked at it today. We have not had any DAT calls this month, which means that since September 1st, we have not been called out to a house fire or to support anyone in Northern Nevada that has been displaced from their home due to a disaster. That's excellent news. We don't usually go that long of a period without getting DAT calls. It does fluctuate seasonally though, and we're getting into that season soon where we're going to start getting more calls. Can anyone guess why?
Fires.
Right. Why do you think there's going to be more fires in the fall and in the winter?
Turning on their heating units.
Yep, they're inside more. They're using heating units. And as someone mentioned, the holidays and all the different other electrical things we plug in. Thank goodness Christmas lights are safer, but they're not entirely safe because they still use electricity and still get plugged in with a bunch of other things that get plugged in. Also, we have a lot of clients who maybe live in non-traditional housing. And when I say non-traditional housing, I mean trailers, RVs, things that are maybe more intended for recreational use, but more and more often have become primary residences for people. Those types of dwellings, because they're not really intended for full-time living and usually not intended for 4 seasons, are very difficult to keep warm. And people will use sometimes inappropriate heating elements to try and keep up with the cold. Especially we can have some bitter cold nights. It was below freezing a lot of nights last winter. And I'd say that's where a lot of our disaster action team calls came from. So don't worry about it, Leslie. So lots of different factors contribute to why we're going to see an increase in disaster action team calls. So please, if you are interested in joining our disaster action team, want to know more about our disaster action team, please let me know and we'll get you connected. Also, if you're not available to go out on disaster action team responses, but you do want to support that team because it is so important, especially for our local people in Northern Nevada, there are ways to support. You can support as a duty officer, which is that person who really takes those initial calls from our fire agencies or from our clients, identifying people who need help. The other way is just to support administratively. We track a lot of information for our responders, their training. We have monthly meetings and we help connect them with other individuals who they can go out and respond with in their communities. So there's a lot of ways to support the disaster action team, even if you're not the one taking the call and going out to meet those clients. So let me know if you're interested in supporting in another way that may not be familiar to you.
Okay, so after you've taken the course, do you have to retake the course after so many years or so, or so many months or?
Excellent question, Leslie. So because our training is so stimulating, that's for Mark. Sometimes there are new trainings that come out. Sometimes there's new applications that come out, like OneSource is a new tool for us. Sometimes how we manage our disaster action team calls changes. I don't anticipate any changes in the near future because they've recently redone everything, meaning we recently in the last couple of years, starting using RC Respond, which is the application that our responders use out in the field. So I don't anticipate that they'll change that anytime soon. The other thing that they changed quite recently, is the training requirements. So I don't think those are going to change anytime soon either, because they really just revamped them all within the last few months. But as time progresses, certainly things change, new applications are used, and other training can come about. Usually it's more update training. So you won't have to start over. It's more like, here's what you need to know since these changes happened.
Okay, because I have actually tried to go back and because I wanted to take the courses again. And it kept coming up that it was completed.
Oh,
It wouldn't let me back in. It's completed.
I'll show you the trick. So you can request it again. Let's see if it'll let me just show you really quick. So here's Edge. I'm gonna go into really quick. And I will type in a course that I know I've already completed
Okay.
probably 100 times. And it comes up, just like you said, see how it says completed right here, Leslie? But you can request it again. So if you hit on this request button and you just hit launch, it'll start it over for you.
Okay.
So
I think I saw that. But okay.
yeah, and if you don't, let's get together. But anytime you guys want to refresh a course, you should be able to go back in and take it. And it's even asking if I want to start where I left off because I've gone into this one so many different times.
Okay. Plus, we're starting to do some of them in person.
Yay, Betsy, can you give us an update on that?
I don't know that well.
On
Jim Rich
what
is
you
the one
know.
who has been doing most of the in-person training. But whereas for a while they were all online, mostly because of COVID. Now, the newest training for DAT has a segment where, regardless of where the trainer is, there is someone experienced here and who can talk to you if you have any questions at all. And Jim himself is willing to give the class too.
I want to say, when I came off the plane today, I did a class on being a trainer for the disaster class that they've come up with. And so they do have it and they want them done in person as much as possible. So
For you guys, that's the new Disaster Action Team Response Fundamentals course. Like Gail mentioned and Betsy mentioned, all the courses used to be online that you needed to initially get going in Disaster Action Team. Jim Rich, who's our Disaster Action Team coordinator, he's always done an amazing job meeting one-on-one with each of our responders individually and walking them through the applications and the process. But that didn't happen everywhere like that. So this is kind of really reinforcing the need to connect in person with new responders before they start going out. So yeah, Jim teaches that course. And I think, so Gail, did you say you are training to teach that course?
yeah, I took the training today so I can teach the class.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gail. I really appreciate it. And that's another way that you can support our disaster action team without actually going out on calls, is helping with their training and learning to become a trainer for that course. Thank you, Betsy. So then the next thing I want to say is a big thank you to Gail and all of the other folks who have responded and been on responses this month. So just since September 1st, Gail just got back from Mississippi. Ralph Kirsten is in Hawaii. Jean Held is in Florida. Danelle Liparelli is in Hawaii. And we're getting ready to send probably 3 more responders today or tomorrow to support those who are impacted by Hurricane Lee. They signed up and they don't even know where they're going yet.
Well, yeah, I understood that it isn't even happening. So is it happening? Has it hit anything that?
So the actual hurricane
Yeah.
itself, I don't think it's made landfall, and I don't think it's anticipated to make landfall. So far, all the tracking looks like it's gonna go right up between Bermuda and the East Coast.
Yeah.
But it could wreak havoc, especially those outer bands on the East Coast.
Okay, so they're going just to get ready for sheltering, or what are they going for?
Potential sheltering and response needs, but most of them are on standby for sheltering. And just yesterday, they were having crazy flooding in, I think it was Connecticut. Was it? I mean, like 6 to 8 inches in an hour. So, and that's not even from the hurricane. It's just, we're having some crazy systems with a lot of water, being a La Nina year or an El Nino.
No,
El Nino, it
which
swapped,
is what we're
right?
supposed to have this winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So forgive me if I got those confused, but there's a lot of systems with a lot of big water. And I think that's what their concerns are, especially those outer bands are gonna whip out over the East Coast and could potentially dump a lot of water. And depending on how it hits with the tides, there may be a lot of flooding just at the coastal areas.
Okay,
So we'll see.
so for them to be on call, if they're on call,
Mhm.
okay, how did they get there? They went in and they talked to, who's the lady that you signed up with? It's not you, is it?
So good question. Leslie, you're full of good questions today. It's almost like we planned this, which we didn't, you guys. She just has a lot of good questions. There's multiple ways. You can contact me and I can assign you to any open position. Fran Feldman, who you may have heard from in the past, she may have reached out and said, hey,
Mhm.
you have a gap, which is group activity position. You basically have a job that you can do in sheltering. Are you available to go deploy?
Okay.
And she may be basing that on your availability that you list in Volunteer Connection. So for all of you who have not shown if you're available or not, this is,
I received the alerts.
okay.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I did receive those and a phone call.
okay, so thank you for bringing that up, because Linda, we're in a little bit of an atypical situation. We need a lot of responders right now because of all the things that are happening. Hawaii, Lee coming in. People are still being supported for Idalia. As Gail was talking about, we're still supporting people in Mississippi for tornadoes that happened more than 6 months ago. So right now, because there's so much happening, and there's wildfires in California and other areas, they're doing as much outreach as possible to try and fill as many open positions as possible, because there's just a lot of need right now. On a day-to-day basis, let's say there was only one disaster happening, and it was something like Idalia, like a typical hurricane. You wouldn't be getting all of these messages. It might be me sharing with you, hey, you guys, on this weekly meeting, this disaster's happened. There's positions open in, there's sheltering positions, or there's health services positions, or whatever positions might be open. And I would ask you guys to reach out to me to assign you, or Fran.
Mhm.
Kimberly Renner is another person. And Robert, and I'm drawing a blank on his last name. Robert, Fran, and Kimberly are all at the regional level. So they either work in Utah, in Salt Lake, or Las Vegas. Here locally, I can assign you. Barb Kramer can also assign you, but typically you would reach out to me first and I would ask for her support.
Okay, and did you say you had a call? Did
Yeah, I
somebody
received texts and a phone call.
or a phone call?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And an email.
Oh, my goodness.
So depending
I
on,
can't respond right now, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yes,
it was nice to know that I got the alerts.
exactly. And so depending what gap or group activity position you have, you might be getting a lot of alert messages. So right now, because I have gaps in sheltering and feeding and government operations, I've been getting multiple of those messages each day. So it just depends on what the need is, how urgent the need is, and what gaps or group activity positions that you have taken the training for. Now, if you don't want to get called, you can update your availability by going into Volunteer Connection. If you click on My Profile and you go down to Disaster Cycle Services, which it's not, there we go. And you click on Disaster Responder Availability, you can, isn't it going to the right spot? You see how mine has nothing right now? So since mine has nothing, I'm getting all the messages in the world because they don't know. Is she available? Is she not available?
Okay.
So if I go in here and I edit this,
Of surveys. That's what we call it.
yep,
Say no. Okay.
yep. So right here, I can say, I know that I'm not going to be going anywhere between today and September 30th. So I would put in that date range and simply click not available.
Mhm.
Now they all know I'm not available, and I don't think you will get those text messages or alerts or phone calls because they'll go into the system and see, oh, Linda's not available right now, so we're not going to bug her. But if you have nothing, they're going to reach out because they're just not sure. If you put in here a date range, like let's say, a few days in advance from now. I can't put it in because I already put I wasn't available in September. But let's just say I put in October 1st and they might start calling me around September 27th for open positions because in a few days I'm showing I'm available, which means I can fly that day. I can head out to that disaster relief operation and I can support. So if you guys know your schedule, and this isn't hourly to hourly, this is just like, for stretches of time. If you know you're not going to be available or you know you are going to be available, go in and enter this information. If you are available, also enter where you're available. So you can say, I'm only available locally, which means anywhere in Northern Nevada. State, obviously, anywhere in Nevada. Our region means anywhere in Utah or Nevada.
Oh, okay.
Our division means anywhere between here, we're the furthest northwest part of our division, down to Louisiana. So it's a huge area. Everything in between is our division pretty much. Nationally means you can go anywhere nationally. That includes all of our US territories. So any of the islands in the Pacific or the Caribbean that we support, that would be part of national. And then you can say, I'm also available to support virtually or only virtually. And there's a lot of different volunteer positions out there, you guys, where you can support virtually. So you don't need to necessarily go to Florida or go to any of these places. You can support in other ways.
Okay.
So that's the quick how-to on your availability. And then remember to save it.
When I did my courses, I did it through Jim. And he said, well, you never go alone. There's always somebody that goes with you. Now, does that mean with you from our chapter or with you from some other chapter that's going to the same place?
So another great question, Leslie Hall.
What to say?
So he is referring to disaster action team calls, not to disaster relief operations.
Okay.
So if you go to a disaster relief operation, you're typically going alone. But what I will send you with is the phone numbers for 24-hour staffing, 24-hour transportation, and 24-hour lodging. So when you get there, if anything is not working out exactly how it's supposed to, you have the phone numbers, the 24-hour phone numbers to call of those local people who are responsible for that. And you guys can always call me, regardless of where you are, because I can get my hands on all of the phone numbers for the leadership on those disaster relief operations. You guys can too, for that matter.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you, not at this meeting, but a different meeting, because we have a lot more to cover in this short time. But probably would be going on disaster relief operations on your own, but you'd have that contact information. Gail, do you mind if I call on you to share a little bit about how that first bit of deployment looks for anyone on the line who hasn't deployed before?
Well, yeah, when I went, I knew where I was going. So I was told I was leaving the next day and I was flying to Jackson, Mississippi. And then when I was in Dallas, I got a thing telling me I had a car, but it didn't tell me where I was going once I got the car. And so I did call one of the numbers I had, and they said, "Oh, you're being lodged in Vicksburg or in Jackson." The next day, though, I got up and I drove to Vicksburg, which was an hour away. And when I got there, they all said, "Did you bring your stuff?" And it was like, "No." They said, "Oh, well, we're going to put you in a hotel up here." So you might want to ask, if you fly into one place, but they're going to move you to another, do I pack my stuff up and take it with me in the morning? So, I end up driving back and forth a little bit more, but there were numbers, and in coming back, sometimes it's a little delayed. Usually your supervisor, like my supervisor, knew before I knew, and they said, "Well, you should got an email." Well, I didn't get the email till later. So by having those numbers is really important. And I want to say one thing. The part about deploying, the best part is all the people you meet. I met some wonderful people that have been in lots of deployments from all over the country. We had the best time. And so that's the part that I hadn't deployed in 18 years. And I just remember that was really great. You get to see, I've never been to Mississippi, so I got to see the Mississippi River and all those kinds of things. So yes, it's kind of neat.
I love it. And I would echo that too on all my different deployment experiences. The best part is meeting all the new people, all the other volunteers, and the camaraderie and the teamwork that really goes into it. And that you're all focusing on the mission together to try and just relieve some of the suffering of those who've been through, the worst experience in their life a lot of times. So it's really remarkable. I can come to tears just talking about all of the really cool experiences I've had working with clients and other volunteers. And I've learned a ton from them, because everyone comes just from this table alone. We have such different backgrounds. And so it's a great place to just network and build community even outside of Northern Nevada. So thank you for sharing that, Gail. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Are you going to show them where they can see what deployments are out there? I mean, that was really important to me because I never knew how to see the deployments.
Okay, well, I was going to save that for a different meeting, but since you put me on the spot, Gail, no, I'm just kidding. So from Volunteer Connection, you guys, it's really easy to see what opportunities are available. So from this screen, it might be in a different spot, but in a different order than my list. Like I don't have Edge anymore, but it should be underneath your photo. And you're going to click on RC View. And it's going to bring up this window that has a bunch of different menu options, but we want the very first one, this National Operations Summary. And from this National Operations Summary, goodness, it's going to make me log in again. And this isn't as bad for all of you. It's part of this is because of how my system is set up as a staff member. So yours should go right into it without you having to log in again.
No, it makes us all do it.
Oh, does it? Oh, I'm sorry. I was hoping it would be a little bit easier. Okay. So from here, this is an overview of where we have responses happening. And it takes a little while to populate. But once you get there, so there's a lot happening, you guys. All of these green dots are disaster relief operations. That does not include our disaster action team calls for single family house fires or anything like that. This is all the disaster relief operations that are for level twos, which mean they're going to exceed $10,000 in cost, and support anything from multifamily fires, or they could have been displaced for a hazmat issue or all sorts of different things, up to a level 7, which is this big giant
Oh.
green dot.
That's the S.
That, well, there's a 7 under this S. It just won't let me move it. But the S's are everywhere we have shelters open.
Okay,
So let's see.
S is a shelter.
Yeah,
Okay.
so let's see if I can zoom in on Hawaii, because that's a good one. Oh, look at that thing heading towards the, out there. Okay, so as we blow up Hawaii, you can see here's the 7 for the disaster relief operation, and then here's all the different shelter locations they have open.
Oh, wow.
So to see what operations need people, you actually go to logistics. This number 4 over here. And you might wonder, why would people be under logistics?
Yeah.
Because people and the services people provide are resources. And so because there wasn't really another tab that it fit under really well without creating a whole new one, they decided we're going to include staff, which is people resources, under the logistics section. And there's a number of tabs down here at the bottom. The open staff requested tab, that shows you all of the different open positions that are currently available. So right now, there's been a request for 1,058 workers. We've only filled 311 of them. That's
me, this chapter?
Yeah,
or-
no. Across the American Red Cross, so across the nation. But that's why you're getting so many messages, because they're actively trying to fill 747 positions across the nation, which is a lot. Typically, you're gonna see under 100 on any normal day, right? When we don't have multiple disaster relief operations going on. But we have Hawaii, Florida, and then we have Hurricane Lee that's kind of an unknown. So let's see if I can tell on these descriptions. How many are for the standby? It's not really showing me from this view. But a lot of these positions are shelter standby positions, waiting to see where they may be needed to support those impacted by Hurricane Lee.
Okay, and so 1 is just a standby. 1?
No, this is how many open positions.
Oh, okay.
So this is the disaster relief operation number. And I cannot tell you by number where it is, but if you look at the reporting location, you can get an idea. The open is how many open positions still need to be filled. The requested is how many in total were requested and asked to be filled. And then the number filled is how many people who have already responded to fill the requested number. The gap, the group activity position, is what they're trying to fill. And these are the acronyms that over time you guys will become more familiar with, but essentially you want to know your own. So DST is computer. It's disaster services technology. I know you want to do that one, Leslie.
I wouldn't want to do that one.
I wouldn't want to do that one either, but it is a need. And if you are good with networks and supporting individuals with local network issues, it's a job for you. ER is external relations. It's just kind of what it says. It's our people that are communicating with our government operations teams. It's who's in the EEOCs. It's those out in the community working with our partners. Anything external facing is our external relations team. It is public affairs. Anyone out there trying to communicate what Red Cross is doing and trying to understand if there's anything we need to be worried about what's being communicated out there. IDC is individual disaster care. So that's going to be our responders who do disaster spiritual care, disaster health services, and disaster mental health. Those are our workforce that require certifications of some kind or licenses of some kind. So our mental health workforce, they all have to be licensed and practicing in mental health, in the mental health field. Health services, same thing. Spiritual care is the same thing. They have some sort of license from the state saying they're authorized to provide these types of services.
And how do you get licensed for that?
That's your professional license. So if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, or if you're a counselor, so that's something that you're bringing from the private world into Red Cross. IP is information and planning. They're the people who gather all of the necessary situational awareness about what's happening in a community that the operation needs to know to make decisions. What's the weather like? What roads are closed? And how are we sharing that information out? Logistics is our stuff, our resources. How are we getting all of the vehicles we need to use for the operation? How are we using those vehicles to distribute all of the supplies and stuff and people to all of those different work locations?
And so it's basically what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of the positions and most of you on this call have group activity positions or gaps in mass care. So that's sheltering, that's feeding, that's distribution of emergency supplies, and that's reunification. So that's directly getting the stuff and the services to the people who've been directly impacted, our clients.
Okay.
And so that's where most of the positions are open, are in sheltering. And you can see here, oh yeah, here's where it says alert standby. So 6, 2, 3, 4.
My goodness.
So 300 of those positions are standby, actually more than that. These are all standby positions too. So that is something also, Linda, that's not typical. It happens occasionally, but not normally. It will happen for what we see notice events, which are like hurricanes, right? We know they're coming. We see them out in the ocean. We're just kind of like, where are they going to hit? We know they might hit somewhere. We know people are probably going to need help, but we're just kind of waiting for more information. And that's when we'll put a lot of people on standby. No notice events are like wildfires, right? We might know there's a red flag warning, but we have no idea where a fire is going to start, what community it's going to impact. And there's also kind of in between, which are our tornadoes. We know there's a system coming through. We know there's definite pockets that could be impacted, but we don't have a ton of warning. We don't have a ton of advance notice, but we have a little bit, so we can start doing some planning. So those are kind of the 3 different things and the 3 different types of events and why you may or may not see alert and standby. But I would say we typically don't see it unless it's a hurricane that we know is going to have significant impact. Does anyone have any questions about where to go for the open staff requests or the different types of volunteer opportunities or positions I touched on? Okay.
Wait, what was the first one that you and I don't want to do?
Oh, Disaster Services Technology,
Oh, yeah.
DST. So you can draw a big line through that one. But anyone who has technical experience and would like to play in that realm, please let us know because clearly there's a big need for it. And you're one of the most celebrated people on the job because you help so many other staff be able to do their job effectively. So if you have any interest, let me know. The other position that's similar to that is staff services. They're there supporting all of the workforce that are on the ground, helping getting their lodging, helping getting their vehicles, all of those different things. So tons of opportunities for all different types of backgrounds and experience levels. So let me know, you guys, if there's anything you're curious about doing or training up for. Most things require training, but they usually only require maybe 1 or 2 more courses after you've done the basics. So it's usually not a big lift if you want to switch to something else. Gotten a little bit off track and we have 4 minutes to go. So no, don't be sorry at all. You guys, these meetings are for us to engage with one another, and questions are part of that, because you are going to have questions that a lot of other volunteers might have that I may not answer, because some things are just nature to be around for a while. So I need those questions and I need that feedback from you guys so that we can all keep each other informed and engaged. So some important things I'm just going to announce that are coming up. I'm going to skip right over what we've done and I'll touch on that next week. But there is upcoming training, you guys. Tomorrow, it's a 2-part. So it starts tomorrow and it goes the following day as well. It's all virtual, but it's for supervising the disaster workforce. Betsy Morse, who you guys met earlier, is going to be one of the instructors, along with Nancy Barrett, who has a really vast experience in sheltering. And this is for anyone who wants to take a leadership role on a disaster relief operation. It's required for all supervisory roles. So if you're interested or just interested in learning what your supervisor should be doing when you're out on a job, please sign up.
And I would take it, I think. It's just to know what you guys are supposed to know.
It's really helpful. It's really helpful. What?
I have a different meeting on Thursday night. Or do you
Probably wait, because it kind of works all together and builds into activities and different things. And it's kind of nice for you to be with the same group.
How often is that offered?
So I'm going to say probably about once a month in our region, but it's offered a lot virtually by other areas. And when you go on Edge, you can sign up for classes anywhere if they're virtual. And sometimes it's kind of fun to take classes that are being offered in a chapter across the country, because you hear different feedback and scenarios and stories because they have different disasters. And everybody's experience is a little bit different. Okay, 2 minutes to go, you guys. I hope everyone after this meeting is heading over to Mira Loma Park. It's just less than a mile away from our office. We are having a potluck and barbecue that's hosted by our mission committee. I'm not going to go into detail about our mission committee, but I will talk about it at our next meeting so you guys know. But they basically do a lot of really cool, fun things for our volunteers. Tomorrow, we already talked about or touched on, there is a Prepare with Pedro presentation at Hugh Gallagher Elementary in Virginia City. Everybody is welcome to observe if you would like. Please connect with Betsy or reach out to me. What time are you guys meeting here tomorrow, Leslie?
I have to talk to Betsy yet. I haven't even had a chance to talk to her since she's been back
Okay.
from her vacation. Yeah.
My guess is that everybody will be meeting somewhere between 8 and 8:30 to head that direction. And on Monday, we have a presentation to moms of young kids at the Cornerstone Church. Betsy is also going to be at that one, and Jen Janes is going to help support with hands-only CPR, and they're going to teach Be Red Cross Ready. That's all I have. It's 5 o'clock. I'm going to close us right on time so we can get to the party.
Are you going?
But any questions for anyone?
I thought you had to go someplace.
I will be making an appearance, but then I do have to give a presentation to Community Emergency Response Team in Washoe County. So I won't be able to be there for the whole thing, but I will be there to say hello and welcome everybody. Any questions on the line? Carol, I think you still have your hand up, but if you do have a question, please speak up. All right. Well, thank you all for attending. This meeting has been recorded and I will share it out probably tomorrow via email to everyone. So anyone who wasn't able to attend can hear what we all learned about. Please, if you think of any questions for the next meeting, please bring those up. Or if you can email them to me ahead of time and I can answer them and also talk about them at our next meeting so everyone else can benefit. All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks you guys for coming.